we have some players in the feature match area. So we're going to go ahead and head on down for round number 1, and we're going to give y'all all the behind-the-scenes stuff that's going on today while these players are playing. But we want to show y'all as much magic as possible. So first up, on our right, we're going to have all 3 of our special guests. We have Niall, we have Robin, and we have Young Dingo, Mikey Bashara. These players, we had them out for the Apex Gaming weekend, and we are so glad to have them, and we hope that they have a wonderful one here in Caldwell, Ohio. We're going to be starting with Young Dingo on your right, and his opponent is going to be
Robert Hayes.
What's Robert playing?
Robert's playing Izzet Murktide.
All right.
An old standby of the modern metagame at this point. Possibly upgraded with Preordain. That's a decision these pilots are going to have to come to on their own.
Sure. Maybe some Lorien revealed to make Murktide better.
That's certainly one of the breakout hits after the first couple of weeks of Lord of the Rings.
All right. Well, it looks like on our right, Mikey Bashar is going to play that 4-color Omnath deck that he's been loving, and he played at FNM last night. Omnath plus the One Ring is a match made in heaven. These players are about ready to go. Looks like Mikey has just finished up mulliganing, so once they are ready, we're going to let them start. We'll be underway here for round number 1 of the Apex Gaming $5,000 Modern Open. Robert Hayes on the left playing Murktide on the play. Has turn 1 Ragavan. The disaster start.
I don't know. Do you think Dingo's prepared to play against Ragavan?
Probably, but I don't know if he has an answer here, so he might be in a lot of trouble on turn number 2. Here he comes. Tack.
We got a connection.
You know, you love to see it. With all the Orcish Bowmasters running around, the old turn 1 Ragavan getting in there. It's almost an underdog story at this point. It's just such a bad card.
Yeah, it's just only getting a treasure and 2 damage on turn 2.
Oh, yeah. Can't even cast the Leyline Binding. What a chump. Here we go. Turn 2, Dragon's Rage Channeler. See if Robert has another play that he wants to make here and use that Surveil, but going to pass the turn with 2 mana available.
2 mana and, believe it or not, a counterspell in hand.
Yeah. All right. Bashara, Young Dingo, is going to be fetching. This is going to put him down to 17. We're likely going to go get one of those powerful Triomes since they enable things like Leyline Binding and fixes 4-color mana base. One interesting build, part of the build from Young Dingo here on your right, he's playing Karn the Great Creator in his Omnath deck. Not something you see every day, but the extra mana bursts from those Omnaths allow him to play powerful artifacts out of the sideboard, such as Wormcoil Engine.
Yeah, this is a fairly recent innovation that Dingo's been on. Karn has seen play in a lot of archetypes. 4-color, not that often, but Dingo, after the great showing Karn had in the last week, particularly Tron, I think Karn is a great piece for keeping Tron at bay in these more fair decks.
Yeah, I mean, shutting down the artifact's also just a one-ring killer, right? So you play your Karn, and if they play the One Ring, it just doesn't do anything. That's a good place to be. Here comes Robert Hayes. Only a land from Dingo, and no defenses here. Robert Hayes coming in for 3 points, and going to get another treasure off the Ragavan, another card off the top, and it's a Karn the Great Creator. Does he even have an artifact in his sideboard? Probably not, but what he can do is he can cast it and lock down the ring from Young Dingo.
Yeah, I've been on the other side of this plenty of times, Ragavan hitting Karn. It's a little less punishing against a 4-color deck with really just the One Ring, but the One Ring is extremely important, so we might just see him slam it down anyway.
Yeah, and there's also a good chance he has like Chalice the Void or Engineering Explosives in the sideboard, so he can still go and get something for his troubles. And those can turn on the Dragon Rage Channeler as well and give him a Surveil. So, all right.
That being said, he might find it just a little more important to hold up the counterspell here, because this is a turn where we might be seeing a Teferi is a card you're afraid of out of Murktide, or as the Murktide player rather.
Oh no, put the good one back up. he put the real Karn the Great Creator, and I'm like, no, show me the real Karn the Great Creator. Well, Andrea, we love you, and keep streaming forever. You're the best. The end.
Karn the Great Creator does hit the stack.
Yeah, and this is going to be a Surveil 1. We're going to bench a land. Robert Hayes looks like he has a hand with Lorien Revealed, Counterspell, and another card I didn't quite see. The Karn is just going to go ahead and tick up and get max loyalty to protect it from Lightning Bolt and Holy Heat and such as that, so that the One Ring is going to be perpetually locked until Young Dingo finds a Leyline Binding to take care of the Karn. His own Karn!
Right. And the first play of the game for Dingo is going to be a Teferi Time Raveler.
A new sub from Andrea Mangucci, the streamer, the man, the myth, the legend, former Mythic champion, maybe won, what, $250,000? Maybe the most won in any Magic tournament of all time?
I'd believe it.
Yeah. All right. Teferi bounces Dragon Race Channeler. We're going to go back Robert Hayes' way. Rogovan can chunk in here for 2 damage, or it can go after the Teferi. We'll see what Robert wants to do. Here's a Scalding Tarn. It's going to go fetching pre-combat. I wonder what that means.
Immediate fetch, yeah. This Teferi, it's great against Murktide. They play a bunch of counter spells, Spell Pierce, etc. But on turn 3, on the draw, not having played anything else, it might just be too little too late because it just gets taken down easily. Just a minor tempo advantage for Dingo.
Right. The strength of Teferi is when it sits on the battlefield and if you can protect it. But he's been unable to contain these creatures early, so... We're going to play a Dragon Rage Channeler. Looks like he has another Dragon Rage Channeler in hand, a Consider, as well as Counterspell and Lorien Revealed. So really powerful hand from Robert Hayes, a very aggressive one. And we're going to go either Face or Teferi. We're going to go Teferi. Nice. Taking it down. Not going to get the treasure, though. Karn going to minus. What are we getting?
See.
What are we getting? You got the necklace in front of you?
We got some cold feet. We're thinking about it. Right. Do we have an artifact that we care about?
Well, we have one... period. And if it's engineered explosives for 0.
Stone of Eric, another Lord of the Rings card. This is very interesting. Stone of Eric, the first line of text just says that, there we go, if a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. That's not hugely important in this matchup. So it looks to me like Robert is just trying to get some value out of this Karn, get an artifact that he can cast, trigger the Dragon's Rage Channeler with, and later on draw a card.
All right, well, we're going to play the Stone of Eric, and that's going to allow for another Surveil. We're going to bench another land that looks like a Fiery Islet. And now Robert has Consider as well as Counterspell at the ready. He has a Dragon Rage Channeler he can deploy as well if he wants to get a little more pressure down. No, not even close to Delirium because all the cards in the graveyard are lands.
That's true, but a little closer than it looks because that artifact in play, that goes to the graveyard for just 2 mana at some point.
Yep.
And that's one of the more difficult types to get into the graveyard. So these channelers are on the verge of Delirium, even though it might not look like it.
All right, we're finally back Mikey's way. We draw. We play a Shockline. Looks like a Sacred Foundry. I see a planet shattering.
Which 4-mana bomb are we going to see here?
I don't know, but I see a planet shattering on the art, and I don't think that that's like a Sacred Foundry. If you had to, maybe unless you ever play Halo.
I have not.
The Foundry is like one of the levels or whatever, so maybe that's the one they're talking about.
Is that one sacred?
I mean, maybe to somebody.
Yeah.
All right, here's Consider. That's a Surveil. We're going to bench a land. Mikey passed with 4 mana up. And Shocking.
Shock the land, yeah. So you got a lot to be afraid of for Robert Hayes here. We're going to start out with a Lightning Bolt on the Ragavan.
Okay.
As soon as Robert took action, we saw Dingo with that Lightning Bolt. And that's going to merit a counterspell from Robert.
Interesting. With the other Dragon Rage Channeler in hand, I feel like you have enough pressure. But I think he just wants to... really, hammer Dingo since he's low on resources. That makes sense. So Counterspell is going to stop the bolt, but then Leyline Binding takes care of it. Consider is going to resolve, and we're going to go back Robert Hayes' way. Grip full of cards. Karn locking down the One Ring. We'll see if he can close the game out before Dingo finds the right answers.
And we saw here, actually, Dingo only drew the 1 fetch land in his opener, and that's what necessitated the shock land on his turn.
Mm-hmm.
A 3-mana Leyline Binding. That's not what you're looking for, but his mana just happened to work out that way.
Yeah, Beseiju who endures,
yeah, not a forest.
And also Sacred Foundry plus Rogran Triumph, they cross over each other.
Exactly.
Island not helping.
We are going to get this artifact in the graveyard and draw a card, and I believe that will be Delirium. We have land, instant, artifact, and creature with the Ragavan being bolted.
It was not bolted.
It was not bolted. It was countered.
So there's instants, artifacts, and land right now. So 1 short.
Still digging.
Probably going to get there. Maybe not this turn.
Another channeler.
I have to imagine there's an Engineer Explosives or Chalice of the Void in the sideboard, and that might be worth going for here with the Karn, just to trigger the Delirium.
Looks like we do have one of each. The 1 stone, 1 explosives, and 1 Chalice of the Void for Robert.
Well, looks like instead we're going to go Bolt Face before we make that decision, and that's going to give 2 Surveils. We're looking for a creature. We're looking for a sorcery. Something like Preordain could help with those numbers if we were playing Preordain.
This is true. It looks like we are not. Robert's on 4 Consider and no Preordains today.
No. He does have Lorien Revealed, which is also a sorcery, so he could also land cycle that, but it looks like we might have hit Delirium here. I'm not sure. Can't tell.
Yeah, we did see the Lorien Revealed in hand, but it seems like we're already at the point in the game where Robert is really trying to commit to drawing 3 cards off that Lorien Revealed.
Yeah. Karn does tick up. It's going to keep it out of range from you know, some burn or attack for a few turns. Here's Omnath, the big scary elemental. We're going to draw a card. Remember, Dingo was on a mulligan to 5 this game, but a lot of his cards are replacing themselves. This one in
And
particular.
the value train is up and running. We got a fetch land. We're going to get some of that life back, and we're going to get some mana to try to impact the board again.
Alrighty. Oh, looks like Subtlety was put into the graveyard from Robert Hayes, I believe. So maybe that was the card that gave him Delirium. Unclear though.
I
Maybe
believe
that's
that is a
counterspell.
counterspell you're looking at. Borderless counterspell.
All right. Regardless, Dingo gonna go ahead and fetch. Down to 11. Already gained some life. About to gain some mana. My guess, here comes a copy of the One Ring without an activation, but it still does give you protection from everything for a full turn. So
That's a whole 6 damage once these channelers are delirious. That's Dingo's trying to keep his life total from getting chunked down rapidly.
yeah.
If we've got a ring, that is.
All right. Well,
An untapped Temple Garden signifies likely a 5-mana spell.
not too many of those in the deck though.
No, but Solitude is a big one.
Yes.
Let's see.
It's a Karn the Great Creator.
Karn
a
with
mana
1
floater.
mana up.
Okay, so we're going to be able to play the Karn minus, go looking through the sideboard. Mikey's sideboard here is nicely set up for the Karn the Great Creator package, but it's not as full sideboard like you'd expect out of something like Mono Green Devotion and Pioneer. So I think somewhere between 6 and 8 cards. But it looks like we have a portable hole. That is a heater out of the sideboard. That 1 mana removal spell is going to take care of the Dragon Rage Channeler. And Robert Hayes is not looking so good after having a great start. Maybe he's regretting using that counterspell on that lightning bolt.
Really some extra value you can get out of Karn in, a non-Tron deck. As much colored mana as you could want out of this 4-color deck, and that enables super efficient cards like Portable Hole that you just don't see in most Karn boards.
All right, we got a fetch from Robert Hayes before we begin our turn, and I know I saw a Murktide Regent drawn. We'll probably be casting that this turn and making a big old flyer. But mostly the question is, can we
5
get...
mana.
Oh, is this Lorien revealed? Draw 3. Nice.
Let's draw. And let's... Alright, this will be guaranteeing us Delirium once that sorcery hits the bin.
Okay, and that's going to mean we can knock off the Karn, which is a big deal for Robert.
Yeah. Dingo is definitely at the point where the Karn is super scary. It's got access to as much as 10 mana next turn. And yeah, that's going to leave the battlefield in a hurry.
Okay, and we're going to tick the Karn up to 6, and that's going to put it out of range. Or we're going to tick down and let it die to the Omnath attack. I like just ticking it up. I think his instincts are correct, but he may want to go get an artifact out of the sideboard before the Karn dies.
Yeah, it's under significant pressure. Looks like he does want to keep it in play for just 1 turn. Some additional utility, it's possible that rather than the engineered explosives, he's interested in upticking on his opponent's artifacts and maybe bolting them to get a channeler back or something like that.
Right. Oh, shout out to Insane Goon for this. Appreciate ya. Here comes an Omnath. It's going to bang on Robert Hayes' life total for 4, putting him down to 11.
To the face.
Shocks and fetches are starting to add up. Mikey going to play a land, gaining 4 up to 12. We'll see if he has a threat to deploy here or some answer for the Dragon Rage Channeler. Don't look at the camera, you're breaking the 4th wall. Oh, they're just confirming life totals, making sure that everyone's on the same page here.
I see.
Here we go. That's a hard cast Solitude. And we're going to eat the Dragon Race Channeler. It's going to send Robert Hayes back up to 14. But Mikey, young Dingo, has cleared the board of all threats. And now Robert Hayes has to deploy something if he wants to come back into this game. He's very far behind.
All of a sudden, yeah, Dingo just right back in the driver's seat, almost entirely off the back of this Omnath. The life swing, the tempo swing.
It's a good card.
That's what you play the deck for. Yeah.
It's not. I mean, it used to be called 4-color Omnath. I don't know why it's called 4-color Karn. I'm gonna have to fire my director.
That's the difference. That's the Dingo difference.
Okay, well, we are turning the portable hole into a creature, and then we're bolting it. That's gonna give us a Dragon Rage Channeler back. That's pretty nice. Looks like we have another Lightning Bolt in hand, as well as Murktide Regent, Consider, and it looks like either Subtlety or an Island. Hard to tell.
So we started off with the getting our Channeler back because we want this Surveil engine back online.
No, Carl Ox, thank you for the new sub. Appreciate you. Thank y'all so much for the love today. Look, we here at Apex Gaming, we are planning on doing tons and tons of these weekends over the next few months. We have one happening on September 9th, another on October 28th, as well as our invitational weekend in November.
So we saw this Consider, both the Surveil and the Surveil of the Consider itself left a card on top. So,
Must be pretty good.
yeah.
Maybe it's another Lorien reveal. Draw 3, huh?
I do see a Subtlety in hand.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like we're going to deploy this Murktide and hope to keep a Subtlety up to try to close the door before Dingo can get too much more value.
All right, so we are delving the full 5, and that's
That one of those was an artifact. We're trying to keep our Delirium online, leaving that one instant, one sorcery in the graveyard. So this is going to be a 7/7 Murktide Regent.
All right, new sub, Magic Elder. Thank you so much.
Omnath can keep up, but we've got 10 in the air right now with this Channeler and Murktide.
Yeah.
Need some, either some more answers or, just a fetch land would do it. Keep Dingo in this game.
Here comes a bobble. Gonna look at Mikey's top of the deck, and more importantly, we're gonna draw that top card of the deck that we kept with a double Surveil on top. So we're gonna go back Mikey's way, and Robert is gonna draw a card off of the bobble. It's a Force of Negation in the main deck. You don't see that too often in the is it Murktide decks, but with the One Ring running rampant, you need some help. Gonna gain some life off the Omnath. Gonna go up to 17. Has the ability to fetch and add 4 mana, but without access to the One Ring, thanks to the Karn the Great Creator, perhaps unable to do much about it. We're going to go Bolt Solitude. Okay. It's going to make it difficult to race. I like it. Now we can afford to just attack for 10 without much fear.
Yeah. Dingo not able to get anything done. Still pretty low on cards after that mulligan. And the pressure remains on. Oh, wow.
That's a play from Robert. He actually exiled that Enoch on purpose so that he could go back and get it with the Karn the Great Creator. Nice play there.
He's looking at those explosives in the Chalice of the Void and saying, those are not actually all that relevant in this matchup. I want that stone back. Oh, yeah. I want a card. I want a Surveil.
And it's luckily Karn is still at 5, so even a 4-point attack from the Omnath can't quite do it. Now, what I will say is it is hard to race Omnath in general, because if you have a fetch line, you can gain 4 life on your turn, you can gain 4 life on your opponent's turn, and that just means that like any fetch line, it just means 8 life. It's just very difficult to race.
And this is interesting here. We see the Channeler coming in. It's delirious. It's got to. But the Murktide is actually staying home, looks like to protect this Karn.
Well, Robert kind of has it as a mini draw engine right now, because he can just keep... he can actually exile his own graveyard if he wants to, and then just draw a card off of it. I'm not sure if that's a plan, because it does remove the Delirium, but...
Yeah, we are targeting Dingo again.
Okay. Alright, maybe should have main phase it and draw... Oh, but he's holding up Subtlety, though, so...
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And has Counterspell. Counterspell looks a little bit worse in the face of Delighted Halfling, but Subtlety has no problem getting through it. Force Negation looks bad as well. Well, hopefully Robert Hayes has a way to check this Delighted Halfling.
Does have a lot of great tempo tools that might allow him to close this game out, but I don't know if the... I don't know how this game goes if the Murktide keeps staying home. Because it could clock Dingo pretty quick here. But yeah, Robert is definitely Oh, there we go. No longer prioritizing the Karn.
Well, he has Subtlety in hand, has extra 3-point pressure. This is a 10-point attack down to 4. Dingo's going to have to gain a lot of life in this turn cycle to not be dead, especially in the face of multiple interaction points from Robert.
Right, and a lot of the Delighted Halfling, there's a lot of legendary spells in Dingo's deck, but some of the more important ones, like Solitude, not legendary, those you can counter all day.
All right.
He did draw something.
Let's see what he's got. It looks like a defeated man. We're going to attack.
Omnath coming in.
Okay.
Age-old question. Face of the Planeswalker.
Here,
and Dingo does not know the answer to that question.
Yeah, it's a tough one. All right, we're going to go
upstairs.
4 points. Down to 10. Close game. Dingo with the ability to gain life at instant speed, thanks to the fetch land. Can also play 1 for turn, so could potentially gain 7-ish life in the next turn cycle.
Robert with plenty of stack interaction.
All right, here's a main phase Solitude. And Robert's going to go ahead and play Subtlety and put that on the top of the deck.
The
That's going to
best
be all she
possible
wrote.
response.
Do you have the answer? We don't. Packing it in. 1-0 Robert
right.
Hayes going to be moving to the sideboard here. Impressive stuff. Early Ragavan allowed for that Karn the Great Creator, which shut down young Dingo's potential for doing anything related to the One Ring. And now my man Bomat's going to be looking over these players' sideboard, and he's going to give you the rundown of what he thinks is going to come in and come out. Are you ready to go?
Yeah,
All right,
so
who's up first?
Young Dingo on 4-color Karn. Most of this sideboard, even in a 4-color deck, is taken up by artifacts for this Karn. We do have 3 Obsidian Charmaw. That's mostly going to be for the Tron-type matchups.
Yep.
I would be surprised if we see very much come in at all for Dingo. And that's just fine, because all the cards in the main deck are still great in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things about playing the 4-color Omnath deck is that your threats are pretty powerful, generically so, and if your removal is good, you don't really have a whole lot to sideboard out. And so
Right.
the Karn the Great Creator taking up a huge sideboard spot, or a huge number of sideboard slots is just not that big of a deal.
Right.
All right, so from the other side of things, the Murktide player, how's that sideboard looking?
We've got 2 Blood Moons. We've got 2 Cast into the Fire as a great answer to the ring. A number of one-ofs, Chalice, Dress Down, Engineered Explosives, a few various counterspells, Flusterstorm, Force Negation, Mystical Dispute, Stern Scolding, Subtlety. We've got a whole range of options for Robert here.
Nice.
He could really take this in any direction.
How do you like Stern Scolding to stop Solitude? Seems like maybe a little too pinpoint.
Yeah, there's Solitude, there's Delighted Halfling, but that's more or less all. And Robert's got plenty of answers for those couple of cards, so I would be surprised to see Stern Scolding. But, Force Negation,
Maybe Dress
Cast into
Down.
Fire. Dress Down, yeah, that can answer a lot of the enters the battlefield effects, but Karn in the One Ring, doesn't do anything against those.
Yeah, changes the dynamic a bit, having the One Ring around.
Right.
All right, as these players are finishing up sideboarding and shuffling up for game number 2. Just want to say thank y'all for being in the stream today. I'm Tandy, and we have Bomat in the booth alongside me, and we're the Lost Boys. Make sure
Yeah.
we're starting a Lorcana project we're super happy about. I know a lot of people around Apex are very excited about the prospect of getting and playing Lorcana.
Yeah,
And,
I can't wait to get into this game and start talking. The competitive deck building is extremely deep.
Yeah, but we're not doing Lorcana today. We might have some, like, between rounds as funsies or whatever if we're bored.
We'll talk to the producers.
Oh, yeah. But for now, we got some hot modern action for you. That game 1 is at Murktide, taking down Mikey's Moldify. Mikey actually put up a pretty good fight with his Omnath deck, though, I think. But
Right.
Ultimately, the draw 3 from Lauren Revealed, I think, really put Rob on your left just over the top.
That's true, yeah. He even still had all those,
Okay, yeah.
Had a force and a counterspell, so Dingo had found a couple more tools to dig out. Robert was still ahead on card advantage.
Yeah. Going back for the sideboard one more time. While we're here, so I just want to remind everyone today what we're doing and what we're playing for. So, the Apex Gaming home store here in Caldwell, Ohio has recently gone through a mega expansion. We have the ability to hold tournaments of roughly 200 people, and we're going to be trying to hit that number sometime within the next year. But today, we hit a monumental 130 players at our home store here in Caldwell, Ohio. And we are so excited to have everybody here for 8 rounds of Swiss, followed by top 8. These players are not only playing for $5,000 in cash, but we are also giving away 2 slots to the Apex Gaming Invitational in November, as well as 1 slot to the Regional Championship to Atlanta later this year. Players here are shuffling up and getting ready for game number 2, and we're off. Young Dingo going to be on the play, fetching on turn 1. That means turn 1 Delighted Halfling more than likely. Let's see if Dingo has access to it in hand.
Also, as far as I can tell, 7 cards for both players.
Nice. About time. Taking a look through the deck, likely going to find Temple Garden.
Breeding Pool.
Breeding Pool. Needed green for the Halfling. Whatever the other color is usually decided by the other lands in your hand. So maybe he already has his Rockland Triome or Sacred Foundry or something similar.
Delirium, or sorry, not Delirium, Domain has really made mana bases interesting in Modern.
Yep.
Uh,
The fetch shock and fetch triumph dynamic is really cool.
right.
Here
There's
it
the
is.
halfling.
All right, Delighted Halfling. Let's get that one on screen. Let's talk about that one in a little bit. So this one drop from the new Lord of the Rings set, 1 mana, 1/2, taps for a colorless, but then you can tap and add 1 mana of any color, and you may spend it on legendary spells, and then those legendary spells can be countered. This is a great way for the One Ring to fight through Force Negation, a powerful tool the Blue decks have been bringing to the table to stop it, and Robert Hayes is one of those people.
That's right. This Delighted Halfling text is kind of comparable to Cavern of Souls.
Yes.
But unlike Cavern of Souls, you've got these egregiously powerful non-creature spells like Teferi Time Raveler and the One Ring that Delighted Halfling can near guarantee the resolution.
Yeah. All right, Robert Hayes challenges the Delighted Halfling with a Dragon Rage Channeler, but if I'm Dingo, I'm pretty happy to have this Delighted Halfling get to untap.
Right.
That means a potential turn 2 Teferi Time Raveler. I wonder if that's what we're going to be seeing right now. Something like Ren and 6, also pretty awesome. We have Preordained, the unbanned card, Dig 2.
On the other side of the table.
Yeah. Now, we still have 2 mana at the ready for a potential Ren and 6, and that is going to threaten Dragon Rage Channeler if young Dingo can find it.
That's what Robert is really not looking for here.
Young Dingo is one of our special guests for this week, and we brought him out. I know that throughout the entire year of 2022, he streamed every single day. And we pulled him out of his cave. We got him to come here, and we're glad to have him. And he looks like he's having fun with his tricked out 4-color Karn.
That's right. If you watch Dingo stream, you know he's got all the fanciest versions on Magic Online, and he made sure to get those in paper as well.
All right, back Robert Hayes' way. He has a handful of considers. We'll see if that's what he wants to do to try to hit Delirium. Gonna just pass the turn. Now, 2 Delighted Halflings in play for Dingo. That means things are gonna resolve.
Sky's the limit.
Pretty bad for the counterspell deck.
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay, these are tapping for mana. It
Very specific colors of mana, it looks like.
I see. Omnath. We're gonna dress down in response. We're gonna draw a card. Maybe an upkeep dress down would have been cool to turn off the mana ability, huh?
Yeah, that's definitely an option.
Okay, well, we're going to draw a card. Looks like that's Subtlety, but this Omnath is still going to be resolving even, but I guess Subtlety can stop it. Chooses not to.
I believe what we're seeing is waiting until the end step for this dress down to be sacrificed, and then fetching to guarantee we get a life gain off this Omnath.
Oh, it's not life gain. Oh, is it?
No,
life
it is.
gain?
Yeah.
Okay, you're right. I was hoping this was like a I think so. Omnath. Does it say resolution or number of total lands you've
Omnath cares about the number of times that ability has resolved this turn.
All right. Well, we're fetch shocking, so unless this is a bolt, we might need to have to stop the match if it's a solitude.
Well, it's in the graveyard.
I thought he was going to solitude, so you know, that's why I'm in the booth. Though.
Dingo's been around the Omnath block a couple times.
All right,
that is a lightning bolt.
Dragon Ray Chandler down. So we got Omnath, 2 Delighted Halflings versus Robert Hayes with a handful of goods, but a board full of nothing. Let's see if he can come back. Starts with an island. Consider. Gonna take a look at the top card. Where's that going? Graveyard. Let's draw. Is that an Unholy Heat? Nope. It's Expressive Iteration. Here's another consider. Maybe we're trying to hit Delirium for Unholy Heat so we can take care of this Omnath.
Desperately.
Graveyard. Ragavan. Draw. That's a Stern Scolding. A little too late. Pass turn.
The turn.
Dingo getting on tap with the Omnath. You have to feel really good if you're on his side of things. Could use the Delighted Halflings to resolve something like the One Ring and get that draw engine going. Let's see what he's got for the turn.
If we had a fetch land in hand, I'm pretty confident we would have seen that come down by now. So it looks like 3 mana to Fairy Time Raveler.
Oh yeah, this is
can't do anything about
another this. Mangucci gonna scream in the Twitch chat. Time Raveler. Uncounterable thanks to the Delighted Halfling. We're going to gain some life.
Mangucci, who are you to deny Dingo his fancy cards?
Alright, we're going to fetch.
We got our Teferi safety blanket down, and now Omnath is going to town.
Okay, let's see what the follow-up is here, because he has access to 7 mana right now. 4 floating from the Omnath, 2 lands and the Delighted Halfling, and things aren't going to be able to be countered. The Teferi's already ticked up to 5, so can't minus and bounce my own thing. And here it is, the One Ring, the powerful artifact from the Lord of the Rings set. That's the One Ring that we all know and loathe. We're going to draw a card.
really the worst news possible for Robert. He's getting buried by card advantage at this point and has really nothing going on.
Yeah, you have to think maybe he just kind of let it slip his mind. The turn that the Omnath was cast and he went for the dress down. He drew a subtlety off the dress down. Maybe you should have just went ahead and pitched subtlety. Even though you have the dress down in play, it's probably worth it just to keep it off the battlefield for a turn.
Well, once the dress down's in play, that subtlety can't do anything.
Oh, you're right.
So 0 mana 3/3.
Apologies.
That's pretty good.
That's true.
But that Omnath is hitting the table.
Robert Hayes is going to be doing some card advantaging of his own, but it's just an expressive iteration which pales in comparison to the strength of the One Ring. It's
Right.
not a One Ring, but often comes in pairs.
And the worst case scenario off, well, not the worst, but not a great one, hitting a Spirebluff Canal on turn 4 that's coming in tapped.
No,
So
it's not. It's staying in exile.
It's staying in exile. All right,
Cast it into the fire!
flavor win here.
Put it in Mount Doom! All right, cast in the
But they
fire.
were all
take
of them
care it.
deceived because Dingo has more of those in his deck.
All right, so now we're going to have a pretty big attack from Dingo. It's going to put Robert pretty low on life. The Teferi has some incentive to minus and bounce the Omnath if Dingo is like low-ish on action.
Right.
That allows them to get a card off the Teferi as well as a card off the Omnath. But it looks like we just have everything rolled up. So we're going to go ahead and fetch shock or fetch tapped, one of the two. And that's going to give us some extra life and some mana. And we'll see what young Dingo's got packing.
Yeah, Dingo
Hopefully
is
Robert gets packing soon.
Dingo is way more interested in keeping this Teferi on the table probably than about any more card advantage. He just wants to get this game over with and hopefully lock up a bunch of counter spells in Robert Hayes' hand that have not have had any opportunities to do anything this game.
And he is. He's going to go ahead and bounce the
Oh,
Omnath.
it's that.
All right, so we do want some stuff to do. We're going to use the
Free
Omnath mana
Omnath.
to cast itself. We still have...
I used the mana to make the mana.
All right, back Robert Hayes' way. We're going to lead with a Consider. We're going to look. Top card goes to the graveyard. It's just like Unholy Heats only, you know?
Right.
Handful of blue cards. Not going to do it.
We can look.
But you can't touch.
Another blue card.
Oh, what is it? Decided to keep it, whatever it was. Oh, it's Murktide Regent. The big baddie himself, the dragon.
All right. Put us on your back, Murktide Regent.
Oh, yeah. Maybe young Dingo's going to be kicking himself for minusing that Teferi on his own
Right.
creature because this Murktide Regent's pretty scary. He big.
Big as it can be.
Now,
And yeah, Robert's really pinning his hopes on this Murktide to lock the board down for a turn, hopefully take care of this Teferi, and bide time until some Unholy Heats. Oh,
yeah.
but
And
we've got the
there's
answer.
a Solitude. Now, Robert does have a Subtlety in hand, but unfortunately for him, the Teferi Time Raveler keeps him from playing it. So this Solitude is going to come down, and it's going to eat that Murktide, gaining a mate life, but now we're going to crunch in for 6 damage. Robert down to 10.
And Robert's still back down to not much going on. There's the Heat,
Finally! Now what do you target?
the first one.
Handful of counterspells.
Yeah,
Fairy making your hand look shriveled.
that is certainly an incentive to go after the Teferi. But if you hit the Teferi, you're getting hit for, what, 9 on board this turn?
Yeah. All right.
Start off with more card filtering, maybe?
Well, let's see what he wants to do. He's got Unholy Heat in hand that he drew for the turn. And a bunch of cards that don't do a lot. Because they're all blue, and most of them are counter target something or another.
Hey, at least these subtleties, if we needed them to, could come down at not much cost with all these other blue cards.
It's true. All right.
Starting off with the Heat.
I think you just got to kill Omnath, unfortunately.
Robert agrees.
All right. Omnath down. Still got 5 points coming over. Can't hardcast Subtlety because we're 1 land away. We can cycle Lord and Reveal to go get a land and play it.
Yeah,
Mm,
we're
treading water.
another spot where we don't have a whole lot going on. Would love to save that Lorien Revealed for card draw, but we didn't even have the 5th land, so trying to make the best with what we have. Passing back to Dingo.
I'm gonna posit an interesting question. I want you to give me your rundown.
Sure.
So both these players have been playing a longish round so far. From Robert Hayes' side of things, you want to finish. You want to be able to win the match. At what point would you have conceded if you wanted to have the most time possible for game number 3?
Honestly, the second I'm looking at the board and thinking I have to kill this Omnath and the Teferi's just going to stick around, that's a pretty good sign that it's going to be extremely difficult to dig out because you need to find another spell to remove the Teferi to unlock any other cards in her hand, and then Dingo still has a lot going on. I would be pretty comfortable taking the play for game number 3 and just moving on.
All right, and
Slams the
Hayes is
Solitude.
going to pack it in. After hard casting the Subtlety, main phase, thanks to the Teferi, the Solitude is going to close it out. We're going to out of game at number 3. And Robert going to go peeking at his sideboard to see if there's anything left for him to do.
Looks like we do have some changes coming for Robert, laying some cards out of the
maybe
deck.
he wants to get Stern Scolding out because of how awkward it looked in the face of all those anti-counterspell measures, you know?
That's true, but also on the play, you can tag a Delayed Halfling with that.
That's true, that's true. All right. We're going to be putting in some cards, taking out some cards. On the
Dingo
play,
just
maybe he
shuffling
just
up.
wants to go full aggressive, you know?
Yeah, that's true. That's the best possible scenario is the unanswered Ragavan, and that actually did carry him through in game 1. Though it got answered a couple turns later.
Oh, yeah.
But it allowed him to get
2
that
treasures,
Karn down,
turn
get some
3
cards drawn.
Karn.
Yeah.
All right. Well, these players here have about 15 minutes left to finish their match, and as well as the additional 5 extra turns once they hit time. Mulligans and stuff will eat into it, though, unfortunately, so we got to go a little quick. Expect these players to be casting spells hot and heavy. Dingo knows all about getting draws. He almost got a draw last night at FNM. We were making fun of him. Me
Yeah.
and old Nile. Okay, so a Spell Pierce going out, a Force Negation going out. I actually like the Force Negations in this matchup just because of the One Ring, but maybe just feels like they're just not strong enough.
I also saw, interestingly, some Mishra's Baubles being sideboarded out, and that's probably got a lot to do with Karn. If there's a Karn on the other side, you draw a 0 mana Surveil trigger. That's not exactly what you're looking for. Just want to get some real cards in the deck that don't Stone Cold lose to a permanent on your opponent's side.
All right, Robert, shoveling up here for game number 3. Going to be on the play. Young Dingo's on your right, playing 4-color Karn. Took out down that last game, mostly in part to Delighted Halfling, protecting all of his permanents from being countered. And here we go. 7 cards drawn. Let's see if either player wants to take a mulligan, improve their starting hand. I see some lands, Murktide, Expressive Iteration. Looks like Fury. Okay.
Yeah.
Seems like a reasonable keep, but no Ragavan, so.
Fury is very cool here, being another tool you can use to deal with both Omnath and the Planeswalkers, Teferi and Karn, for no tempo loss.
Yep. All right, we're going to fetch.
There's the halfling.
That's the scariest thing you can see if you're Robert Hayes, because all of your counter spells start to shrink in your hand.
And no answer available.
Making Teferi, Time Raveler uncounterable is disastrous for this counterspell deck.
Be interesting to see whether this warrants a Fury for Robert. Looks like no, we're just going to play a land and pass.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but I actually think that maybe it was right and just hold up counterspell after that.
Right.
It's just a tough prospect, and it's one of the reasons why Delighted Halfling's so good in these 4-color Karn decks and these 4-color Omnath decks. Mostly, you know, it just requires your opponent to keep in all their lightning bolts and stuff, which are normally pretty bad against you.
Right.
And it actually creates a nice little sub game. I've been toying with citing them out in some matchups, even though they are pretty good, because you just want to make all their removal just bricks early. But card is just so powerful.
Right. On the possible upside here for Robert, if he holds that Fury, most of the things that the Halfling is casting on this turn, you can, if not kill, eat up some extra Fury damage, and looks like he might have an opportunity to get that kind of value with 2 Halflings in play now for Dingo.
All right. So Dingo does cast Preordain, keeps both on top, and then plays a second Delighted Halfling. And we'll see if Robert Hayes wants to go for that Fury and clean him up. That's going to basically be a 2-for-2 trade and allow him to prevent himself from losing to the uncounterable clause. Going to have to pitch Expressive Iteration, but I think that's a welcome trade for him.
Yeah. It hurts he is a mage in his soul, but Expressive Iteration, you've done your duty.
Yeah, we're
Red
always
card,
happy
get
to
out
2-for-2 as blue-red mages, don't worry.
Right.
Young Dingo's way. Let's see if he has land number 3. Without those Delighted Halflings, his start is crippled a little bit. He's going to need to rebuild his mana base. He finds Ren in 6. Does he have a land in hand? He does. Misty Rainforest. Let's see if he wants to go for that, and if Robert Hayes wants to challenge it.
Right. And also in Robert's hand right now, we see a Lorien revealed, which means for the third game in the row, we're going to be put to the test. Are you land cycling, or are you holding it for value?
Okay, Dingo
Don't see a land cycle.
plays Windswept Heath, doesn't go for Ren in 6. Maybe wants to try to protect it with Mystical Spewed or some other protective element, or maybe just doesn't care.
Which Dingo actually doesn't have any room in the sideboard for with that Karn board. We did not see any counter magic in Dingo's sideboard.
Okay, Hayes here does play Counterspell on the Ren in 6. Keeps the resources at bay from Dingo, but still a handful of spells from both players. We're going to double fetch down to 13. Probably going to go get a pair of Triomes.
And it looks like Robert has made his commitment to this Lorien revealed. That's going to be put on the stack in the exciting way, let's say.
The exciting way?
Yeah.
You mean at sorcery speed on your own turn?
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 cards? I want 3 cards. Don't you want 3 cards?
Yeah.
Robert wants 3 cards.
We are fetching around Blood Moon. We are getting Island Plains.
That's
going to make sure that the cheeky Blood Moons out of the Izzet Murktide main deck and sideboard no longer that effective, but still decent. Dingo just trying to make sure he can use Prismatic Ending or something similar to knock it off in case it does come down and try to ruin his life. Ren and 6 is the pickup. We're going to go ahead and cast it. Does Robert Hayes have the answer?
Try again.
Nope.
Looks like it resolves.
Okay. Misty's the pickup. Going to pass back. Hayes draws for turn. Finds Consider. Probably going to cast Lorien Revealed. And here we go. Jace's Ingenuity, draw 3. Imagine putting, Island Cycling on Jace's Ingenuity. And that's Lorien Revealed. Completely changed a lot of decks in Modern. A great card. Let's get Lorien Revealed on the screen. Let's talk about it a little bit. Because land cycling, for one, in a lot of scenarios and a lot of decks, ultimately just becomes another land, right? It just almost counts as a full land by itself. Normally, cantrips, cycling cards, these kind of count as like half lands, quarter lands when you're doing resource building in your pre-constructed deck phase. And Lorien Revealed, though, just kind of breaks that mold, and all those land cyclers from Lord of the Rings just excellent. Right.
This is maximum efficiency for a land cycler. And my experience with this card is the whole cycle gets revealed, right? We have 4 creatures and 1 sorcery.
Yep.
And most of the reactions I saw were, the blue one, it doesn't go in living in. It's not a creature. Let's put that away. And then people just start jamming it into rhinos, and then it makes its way into Murktide.
Yep.
It's outstanding in Pauper, even.
Oh, yeah. It's, change the way that we build blue decks in any format that is legal, because island cycling, for one, is just so close to just being a land. And when your land can pitch to force negation, or in Pauper where you can find Mystic Sanctuary. Is that a thing, or is Mystic Sanctuary banned?
Mystic Sanctuary is indeed very banned in Pauper.
All right. Well, I was trying to do something on Tuesday night, Pauper night, but I guess not.
People were definitely doing something with Deprive in that format. But back to Modern.
All right.
We got a Channeler and a Bauble.
Yeah, we also have a Teferi Time Raveler on Young Dingo's side, which means that many of the cards that Robert wants to play are going to be locked down. A great time to resolve the Teferi is when your opponent is tapped out.
Right. But it looks like we may see this Teferi answered. If we have Delirium, I'm not entirely sure at the moment.
I know we have Sorcery Instant. We probably have lands.
We have a creature with that Fury.
Okay. And then Artifact in play. So we're going to sack. We're going to Surveil on the top. Okay.
So Robert getting a little tricky with the stack here. He's put the Surveil trigger on the stack and then decided to get some information with that Bauble before surveilling. And it looks like the Surveil was on top. We do have Delirium. Teferi down.
Okay. Now, it looks like we have Consider, Murktide,
plenty of options,
and Expressive Iteration in hand for Robert Hayes. So, yeah, a lot of potential options here. Can't attack with a DRC, just played it this turn. It does have Delirium, though, so Ren 6 can't knock it off, and Dingo goes for the removal spell with Leyline Binding.
This is a great spot for Robert to hold up that counterspell with no Teferi, no Delighted Halfling in play. Anything important that Dingo slams, Robert's going to be able to counter it and maybe answer back with a Murktide, really put the pressure on.
Yeah. Dingo going to go ahead and fetch basic number 3, unlocking himself from a potential Blood Moon. Seems relatively safe now, considering.
Yeah. It's been there's been a period in Modern now where it's pretty frustrating for Blood Moon players.
Miss Bobble trigger. Bang.
Bang.
That's one. We got to keep a counter. Can we get a Miss Bobble counter trigger on stream?
Oh,
Oh, you remembered.
we
All right.
resolved it.
Thank you, young Dingo. You're a stand-up gentleman. Nothing's
Dingo
happened.
allowing his opponent to put it on the stack. Anyway, yeah.
All right, we get land back. We're gonna play the Windswept Heath. Rent a 6 up to 6, dangerously close to ultimate. We'll see if Hayes can keep it in check. We're gonna play the Windswept Heath. We're gonna go for Karn the Great Creator. This seems like a pretty good counterspell target. It's a very strong spell. Consider first. Let's see what the top is.
Let's get some information.
Bench the land. Draws another one. And we're gonna fire it off.
No thanks.
It could be anything. Could even be Wormcoil Engine.
That's true.
Could even be two things. That's the big problem. All right, here's a second Murktide Regent. Are we gonna have the fabled double Murktide Regent turn? That would be
We'll
so
see.
cool. Here comes.
Here comes some information. Let's start with Expressive Iteration.
All right, maybe we couldn't double Murktide. That's fine. Here we go. Counterspell to hand. Subtlety to Ragavan Exile. Subtlety to the bottom. Okay, I guess we're gonna cast Ragavan and then cast Murktide Regent would be my guess. Or hold up Counterspell. This doesn't seem like a great spot to not. Oh, he's gonna
Paying
dash
the
the
extra
Ragavan.
mana to dash the Ragavan.
Love it.
Let's see if this Ragavan makes it in. Just counting up the mana, making sure everything was paid for. Robert was a little, Robert was second guessing himself as he cast this Ragavan. Looks like we're just trying to clear up which decisions were made.
Yeah, if he says cast Ragavan and then, 2 seconds later says dash Ragavan, that can potentially gain some information from Dingo if he has like a counterspell or something. And so when you announce a spell, it's just important to make sure you know exactly how you're casting it. I think he realized after he put it on the stack that if he dashed it, he could attack, get a treasure, and then play the Murktide Regent still.
Right.
And wouldn't leave his Ragavan vulnerable to the Ren and 6-. But as the judge comes over, hears the story, he will make his final ruling. Until then, it's not great to speculate. We'll just get his actual ruling afterwards. But
right, and this is a difficult situation that's actually kind of hard to play around, where you can train yourself all you want to really think through your decisions beforehand, but every time you're putting that card on the playmat, there's a split second of doubt where you can change your mind and backtrack.
The old Control-Z, the undo.
Yeah.
All right, well, as they're explaining exactly what happened to the judge, we'll see what the judge's final ruling is. Until then, let's just talk about the matchup so far. So I've been relatively impressed with Delighted Halfling on young Dingo's side.
Right.
Although I do find it interesting that playing the second Halfling just opened him up to Fury. And so playing those early creatures, you are making yourself vulnerable to interaction from your opponent because you have reliance on those early creatures. But from the other side of things, the turn 2 Teferi Time Raveler, that's pretty bonkers against Counterspell deck.
Exactly. We've really seen Teferi warp a lot of Robert's decisions this match.
Right.
Whether it's spending an entire turn, there's nothing to do but dig for an Unholy Heat because our subtleties, our counterspells are all turned off entirely by that Teferi.
Alright, so it looks like we're going to back up to the Ragavan being just cast, which I think is fine. And then Robert is going to be having 2 mana open he can use to hold up Counterspell or cast Dragon Rage Channeler.
Right, and Robert
Murktide Regent.
Robert looks like still trying to take an opportunity to trade off this counterspell rather than allow a Halfling or Teferi to hit the table and negate it.
Mostly just doesn't want to let Omnath come down, right? Like, if you tap out, like, that's just prime time for Dingo to resolve something that probably breaks your whole strategy in half, right?
Right.
Now, these players will be getting a minor time extension. We do see 2 minutes still left on the clock. They do have an independent clock of the original round of time. We do see a removal spell. Or sorry, the Ren and 6- is on the Ragavan, and now we have Karn the Great Creator coming down for Dingo. And now I'm going to warrant the counterspell as well from Robert Hayes.
And we saw that's probably what Robert was afraid of when he changed his mind about the Ragavan, is recognizing the Ren and 6 lying in wait to take that Ragavan off the table. But we do have a backup Ragavan. That will definitely be dashed.
All right,
And
here
answered
comes,
by a Leyline Binding.
Yeah, Leyline Binding is going to take it down, and it's going to make it so no treasure, no card. But we have Murktide Regent as the follow-up. Maybe Dingo playing that Leyline Binding a little too soon. We're going to put 5 counters here, and then we're going to play a second one. And we're going to put some number of counters on it and the original Murktide because of the way it's worded. The second one always fuels the first.
Right. And that turn was probably exactly what Robert was looking for. Dashed the Ragavan, got his opponent to commit an entire removal spell that would have been great against one of these Murktide Regents. And we see Dingo starting off with a Preordain.
Alright, gonna be digging for some way to get at least one of the Murktide Regents off the table, but Preordain does a great job of finding those types of cards. I know I saw him with one copy of the One Ring in hand, so he can play that and protect himself from the Murktide attacks. That does mean that Ren and 6 is likely going to be biting the dust unless he can clear both Murktides this turn.
Yeah, here comes the ring, which, great at protecting yourself. Those Planeswalkers, pretty vulnerable. But we can also get this card advantage online.
Alright, draw a card. Burden counter goes on the One Ring. What do you think, Matt? You think Burden counter should have gone on to the player?
You know, people can float a lot of, custom designs for these cards. I think that one would have been pretty good, but we're in the world we're in. The One Rings can just keep coming, relieving the burden for each other.
Yeah. Alright, well, we're going to go back Robert Hayes' way. A ring of protection around young Dingo. Can't be hurt. He's in the Shadow Realm, just like Frodo from the Lord of the Rings. Can't be touched except by the ring wraiths.
Just like Frodo.
Going to draw a card. And now Robert Hayes is going to cast Consider. Looking at the top.
In the tank.
Yeah. Going to keep it. Probably some sort of counterspell would be my guess. Maybe a Subtlety. Oh, it's Unholy Heat. Pair of Unholy Heats in hand. Crunch. Ren and 6 down. See ya.
No holds barred.
Alright.
We have a channeler into heat.
Okay. Back Dingo's way. Let's see. If the One Ring can save him, he's going to take damage down to 9. And if he draws 2 cards, that means he's going to be looking at taking even more damage next turn. The cumulative damage from the One Ring is powerful.
And Robert has plenty of pressure going on to back up these burden counters.
Right. But we know what happens when you play the One Ring. It usually finds the 2 ring. And then that one finds the 3 ring.
Yeah. The burden counters, it's a valiant effort to try to keep this card in check, but as soon as you have one of those on the table, you just want to keep hitting that button. Like, have more cards next turn?
Yeah,
you know what? Sign me up.
The coolest thing about the One Ring, in my opinion, is the fact that it's legendary means that the second copy that you play removes the first one. And so once it's got too many burden counters on it, the backup One Ring kind of starts the whole chain all over again, while still giving you that turn of protection from the ability too.
Right. That's why it's one of the reasons this card is seeing so much play in so many
Matt.
numbers, is because they're better with each other.
What the heck is that?
That is an Ensnaring Bridge, aka
Ensnaring Bridge.
Bridge of Khazad-dûm.
AKA Game Over. Ensnaring Bridge here. Disastrous for Robert Hayes. These Murktide regions cannot attack. Bridge of Khazad-dûm. That's the one where Gandalf fought the Balrog, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing here is Robert does have some artifact answers. We saw in Game 2 the Cast into the Fire. So there are answers to this Ensnaring Bridge. But to start off, we're just going to see Karn being heated and taken down by the only creature able to attack, the Dragon Rage Channeler.
All right. Robert was looking for the Cast into the Fire to remove the bridge so he could attack for lethal. Doesn't find it. Instead has to send everything at the Karn. And now we're back Dingo's way. Gonna go, looks like down to 7 from the burden counters. And the One Ring gonna draw some cards. We'll see if Dingo can reset the ring. Besides to just
passing the turn, laying off the ring.
Interesting.
That's what we're seeing here is the interaction between the One Ring and Ensnaring Bridge, actually.
Ah, good call.
You can't just keep hitting that button when you're relying on a low hand size to keep yourself protected.
All right, Expressive Iteration. Gonna look at 3. We got Unholy Heat, Murktide Regent, and another Expressive Iteration.
Love to see that expressive into expressive. Yeah. That's what you need when you're trying to dig as deep as possible.
All right, come on into the fire. Send it packing, Mr. Frodo. I can do a pretty good Sam impression. I've seen that.
I believe it.
I've seen those movies so many times.
I don't know if that was it, but I believe you could.
Okay. I do kind of look like Sean Astin when I shave my beard.
Now that I can see.
Yeah.
We've got some interaction, but not exactly cast into the fire. A
Has-
dress down is very interesting.
All right, so we are going to be entering in 2 extra turns here. We're going to be turn 0 with Robert Hayes. We're going to make sure that the players know. And after that, we're going to go through 5 full turns. Young Dingo is going to be starting at turn number 1, and then we're going to go back and forth until the 5th turn happens. Once that ends, if neither player has been able to win the game, then it's going to end in a draw. But if either player can win the game before that, then that'll be good. Stern Scolding. That's
Stern
knock off the
Scolding.
Sawtooth. Out of the sideboard. I was actually helping Robert open booster packs before the tournament started.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he was playing one of the Murktide decks from the store and just wanted to make some changes from Lord of the Rings and Stern Scolding. He was just like, give me that one. I want that one. Looks pretty good there.
Yeah, that was very nice, being able to counter both the creature and the spell part of the Solitude.
All right, Bolt you. Down to 1 from the one
Down
ring.
to 1.
Let's see if he can play another 1 ring. My guess is going to draw 3 cards here looking for something.
Right, but we already have 3 in hand. These, the smaller Murktide, it's entirely possible.
Okay.
Nothing off the ring.
Nice. Packs it
And
in.
Robert takes it down.
Looks like the damage from the 1 ring ultimately sealed Young Dingo's fate. And, or is it Murktide takes down the first round?